do so pretty well here, just continuing to apply pressure. Madero just eagerly looking, knows that player is going to walk out at some point.
Didn't even get it. Okay,
Savage did.
Yeah, maybe Savage did. I thought it was a whole different one. Great opportunity. But you can see how most of the team is already in zone, and this one's going to be a little different. A river running straight through the center with the two different elevations on each side. You can see how they're just peeking at that perfect moment as zone begins to overcome. That siphon was important. All that loot right before they make their next journey towards the center of this next zone. A good portion of the lobby, though, they did get a max pull. How they handle this is going to be important. Depending on if you have ODM gear and a kinetic blade, it's going to change the way you begin to rotate as well.
Yeah, of course. Trulex and Chicho. It'll be very important to see how they handle this one, of course. Trulex, that IGL, that leader, scouting, making sure he's aware of everything around him, and a bit of a surprise right in front of his box, and maybe a free opportunity. You can see he's going for it, tries to catch them out. Isn't quite able to catch them in time, though.
That's the best opportunity as any, though. Just one wood ramp really separates them. I resume he just has his work cut out for them. Queasy, Vino as well. They're stuck between a rock and a hard place, continuously trying to backtrack, put themselves in a better spot. Their own box at that, because that would have been dangerous if anybody tries to peek. A little bit of a lobby focus here, but nothing that they can't handle as they return, and Burn taking down Arazumi. Tened was already knocked, so they get all that loot in the world, and look at the difference in which it's going to make their game.
Yeah, that was somewhat of a saving grace as well for them. I wonder what Vino has in terms of heals, because Queasy is usually that player that plays the heal off for this duo. Unfortunately, he had to use a bunch of his heals. A nice limb there, though, along the way. It's important that Vino has something for them, and if not, they'll have to find it if they do want to play for heal off. This is Savage and Vidil. Also still alive, also still looking good and consistently making it to endgame, which is what they did last week, which led to their success.
This is going to be the tricky part, though, this portion of the end game where we begin to get those moving zones, and where you heal, where you use a lot of your resources is going to be very, very telling of where you end up at the end of the game. You can see Zara already popping one legendary slurp juice. All you need is at least one. Zangi has wing condition on his back, but high above the ground, high above the red. Nathan and Jake, when everything comes chopping down, they're going to be forced to use a kinetic blade to keep their high ground intact. But Jake, he actually gets knocked altogether. But so much pressure onto Nathan as a solo, and he's barely above the damage threshold.
He's got to give it up. Zangi and Zara will not allow him to stay, and he knows that he drops down. Zangi and Zara, they like to play high, and so that's what they'll do here in game one. They're looking to take it. Seti, still alive as a duo, and he's looking strong. The materials are starting to run low, and so we have to start to get creative soon. But if you're Mappy and I drop, or Mappy and Mappy, I should say, things are also looking good. A nice refresh found there, and they got a lot of heals to work with.
Yeah, perfect for them. Just take note. Any other player would probably just get that elimination, get the scraps, leave it in that box. They bring it all the way to them, to where they have that safety, where they have that comfortable feeling of being able to finally get the elimination. But Blink, you might have missed it. Savage goes down. High ground putting the pressure there. We lose Veno along the way, but Queasy's up for the challenge. He's able to get at least another elimination, trying to claim that loot, but on the other side is a hungry player ready to take him down.
The big thing for Queasy here, though, is look at his materials, absolutely max, and he has so many chug splashes. Maybe not enough heals to win the game, but he has more than enough to stay in this one till the very end. Can continue to just top out the rest of his endgame with his mats if he really chooses to. Things are not all lost for this duo. For Vidil, though, doesn't have Savage anymore. In a very similar situation, but he's also looking good on his materials.
9 splashes is all he's really going to have left, but luckily for him, a lot of that damage was shield, but he's going to go ahead and expend it, save him, put him in the back pocket. He knows they're going to come in use later. As Curb, Default, they're trying to go unscathed, but towards a little bit towards their left, a little bit of high ground, they get tagged up for them. They only have a few slices of pizza. They're only enough to get through lunch, but what about dinner?
Gotta be careful with these players on your layer. Mappy dropping down. Understand that they have to stay out of that congestion. They want to clear there. They want to be free of all the teams around them. And Queasy very much doing the same thing here. Making sure he's very aware and looking for opportunities, not shying away at all. Does want to find any other solos looking like him who he can capitalize on.
You can see instead of just straight kinetic blading, he's trying to keep his position relatively unknown. Zara and Zangi, they're still holding on to the high ground. It doesn't matter how many times things get chopped away from them. Vadir as well. We talked about him being a solo, losing Savage very, very early on in terms of these cascading placement points. So this game is huge in terms of the next 6 that they're going to play overall. Kylie gets lost backside of zone. Another player in Vico going to have to do it as a solo.
Vico hoping Kylie was able to drop all those heals to him so he can continue to play this one out. Things are looking so good for Zangi and Zara though, all the way up there. Nobody really posing a threat to them. They can just start to count their heals, figure out how long they can last in this game before one of them drops down to fight. Howley and now Tensi down below, running low on pizzas, but they're going to continue to top out, and there will be players here to capitalize on them right down beneath that layer, just having to break their way through builds that aren't theirs so they can form new land. Apex Mappy now, all the way in the back of the zone. He's going to have to start healing.
Yep, you see those splashes going off. He doesn't have time to pop the slurp juice. Almost threading the needle there, but pushes out the slap juice again. He's trying to battle against Vico, who takes him down. There's a huge amount of heals from Vico to claim as his own. It's going to close overall, and this is where the heal off is going to begin. Zangi drops down low. He's going to be the fragger, but doesn't even make it close to anybody.
Doesn't take anybody down along the way, and so the heal offs begin up above. Will Zara have enough? Didn't really take any storm ticks. Gonna be looking to try find anyone. If he gets that, he gets a refresh for it as well. Things are looking good for Zara. As long as he didn't take earlier damage, he won't have to worry about storm sickness. Vika will try his best, but his best won't be enough here unless he can find Chugs. No, he cannot. Voxy, gonna start to run low, but does still have quite a lot of heals actually. Pizza does have the slurp popped as well, and the chug splashes, and I'm not sure what Zara has left. Does he have anything in the zone? If not, it might be a clean sweep for Voxy. As long as storm sickness doesn't play a factor, things are looking very good for him here in this game.
It's all up to this moment. A few seconds, that's all Zara has, but he's gonna get himself a couple of more, but storm sickness finally does him in. Vox takes the game with more than enough pizza to spare.
Unlucky for Zara, they couldn't quite pop that flopper in time. Even then though, when you look at what Vox had, there was just way too much in the arsenal for him to out-heal. But he was prepared, he was ready. They were doing their thing down below, and they were able to survive to the very final moment.
I hope that he gave that pizza boy a huge V-Buck tip, because he didn't get just one pizza in terms of that heal off. He had 2 different game time augments popped, and him and his teammate played that one perfect. 2 slices left, 6 different splashes to watch it all down. That is a huge start here for them and their weekly final.
Yeah, and we really saw a contrast in the style played by Vox throughout that game, right? Because there at the end has to be very passive, stay hidden, use the heals appropriately. But earlier on, we were seeing him frag out, we were seeing him take fights and hit crazy shots earlier as well. So a very, very balanced game for that team.
Yeah, we know where they're probably sitting maybe in a top 5 position on the leaderboard, but we got a very special birthday boy to break it all down for us and let us know what it looks like.
You just had to go there, didn't you? You just had to go there every time. Vox, Kaizen, they should probably hit up the Pizza Pit. Look to be sponsored by the Pizza Pit because they got pizza. You want it, they got it.
Yeah, we were watching the end game unfold, right? The heal up obviously starting to happen, and then there was 2 pizzas on the ground, and me and Minnie were like,
we literally looked at each other like how? 2? 2? 2? I mean, it's a pizza party going on there. I feel like we should have a pizza party because, you know, if you didn't know, it's Zeke's birthday. But yes, Vox, of course, and Kaiser, what a performance in the end game. As Levin mentioned, they were just so adaptable to their situation. They needed refreshes, so they went out and got them.
Yeah.
Once they got them, they chilled. They relaxed a little bit. They thought, you know what? We've got enough heals to win this game. And oh boy, did they go about it in such great fashion.
You know, to be fair, though, finding the eliminations to actually find some of these heals, have the materials kind of build into the end game, obviously playing a very, very big factor here. But then shout out to them for not taking any storm damage basically throughout the game, right? Because we saw storm sickness affect so many players throughout that end game, did not affect Vox at all.
Not at all.
Storm sickness, man. In case you don't know, it's just managing how much of the storm you're taking before these final end game moments, and for them, it does work out. Let's take a look at the standings. How are things shaking out after game 1? Now, as always, don't forget, this is just game 1. Everything's fine. Everybody calm down. Kaizen, Vox, they're going to hold that #1 spot, that Victory Royale, and even honestly paired up with 6 eliminations. I feel like that's a little more than we're kind of used to seeing when we're looking at heal-offs.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, 6 eliminations is good, and I think that just comes down to the fact that they needed to get those refreshes. Another team that did do very, very well, particularly as a solo, was Queasy and Venno. Of course, Venno went down a little bit earlier on than he would have liked right there, and we often talk about Venno as the solo player, the fragger. The ability that he has is unmatched, but Queasy's turning up to the party as well, and he did such a great job here, Vivian.
Yeah, I mean, it's not easy to, you know, kind of play as a solo when it comes to these FNCS style lobbies, but at one point we tuned into Queasy and he had literally 500 wood, 500 brick, 500 metal, so he was definitely prepared, had all of the resources to go ahead and find that, and as you see it, that refresh right there is what allowed him to actually play so late into that end game. Of course, those chunk splashes playing a vital role as well. He used them so effectively.
Yeah, they really did. And when you're as a solo, when you're in an end game, when you're in this situation, it's very easy just to back off, play safe, play passive. But Queasy knows, he has the experience, he knows exactly what to do, and that's be aggressive when it matters. When he needs to get those refreshes, to get those 13 chug splashes, I believe he had at one point, he needs to go for those eliminations and pick up those refreshes. He did it at the perfect time, and he knew, if I stack up these chug splashes enough, we can at least get a top 5 here, and it was good.
That's why you guys talked about it at the start of the show, right?
Yeah.
How you might have all the heals in the world, but how do you actually effectively utilize them? A duo in the 10th place, Vidil and Mr. Savage. I mean, a duo we had eyes on in week number 1, looking to come back with just that much of a stronger performance.
I mean, that's the highlight, right? Remember, only 15 returning teams in this week 2 finals that were in week 1 finals, and Vidil and Mr. Savage are one of them, right? So they're already looking good when it comes to those series points, but even today, putting up a performance already top 10, I'm excited to see how this duo plays throughout FNCS as a total, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see him in grand finals already.
I hope so. I definitely think they have the potential for it. They have the experience certainly as well, and from one solo clutch to another, Vidil did such a great job here to keep in the game, keep themselves alive. And again, getting enough refreshes, not quite working out right there at the end, but Vidil is such a great player, such a great fragger. I feel like he's almost underrated in his actual fragging ability. Everyone knows him as a great brain. He knows how to play the game. He has that experience. But when it comes down to mechanics, he is really looking strong right now.
And a duo in 2nd place, Zara, Zangi. These guys, after game number 1, are looking fantastic. I guess for me, the question would be, can we continue that momentum for 5 more games?
I mean, of course, you know, losing out to that heel of ultimately beginning 2nd place, still very, very impressive. But the keynote for me here, high ground.
Yeah, they dominated it. They were all the way up there. They took it at a really nice time as well. And unfortunately, they didn't quite have the white heals to make it happen for the heal off, but still a solid performance there at the end. Of course, Zangi having to drop down below, and unfortunately didn't find anything, just went immediately straight down. But unfortunately for them, didn't quite work out as they would have expected. Zara, I believe they had a little bit of storm sickness here at the end, and it wasn't quite ideal for them, but just ran out of heals a little too late here. And of course, we saw the flopper coming through. Not quite enough time. There's that storm sickness that just came in at the worst moment.
And we did talk about this at the start of the show, the new zone circle 6 and 7. How do you guys feel like they maybe impacted this first game?
You know, top of the show, I was like, listen, you know, everybody's going to be congested on one of these edges, one of these sides, right? But right there, zone 6, I feel like everybody was able to like spread out and almost like no effect really happened to many of these teams, which is why I think we saw so many people alive in the end game actually able to play that heal up, because Zone 6 was honestly not that brutal in this lobby.
No, it really wasn't. I think a lot of the teams might have watched our top of the show, our beginning, actually, because they rotated in early. They were like, you know, I'm going to take tips from that Vivid guy because he knows what he's talking about.
That's not always true, but for, like, I'd say 99.9% of the time, that's pretty true.
9%.
I said 99.9.
Oh.
Yeah, come on, Vivid. I'm giving you some credit. My gosh, 5 more games to go. Game 1 seemed pretty okay. People adjusted accordingly. Are you hoping to maybe see something done differently in these next games? It feels like right now it's a pretty good start.
Listen, there was 10 players going into that heal up, right? That's pretty much what we saw in week 1. We were expecting some of these changes to zone 6 and 7 to affect a lot of these teams. It seems like they have done a great job at adapting, so I guess just more great performances.
More great performances. I said it last week. Jalen, Victory Royale, game 2. It's going to happen. Second time lucky. Let's go.
Mini Fighter, let's find out. Jalen, you've been called out. You have to do this. You have no option. It is Victory Royale or bust right here, right now. Game number 2 is upon us here from the FNCS, so let's jump back into it.
With game number 2 upon us, we got our top dogs, we got our teams that are fighting for that top spot. But a huge change up. We saw them go down early. Thomas and Malibuca. They're going to be my team to watch here in game 2.
Yeah, look, Racetrack is such a hard spot to fight off sport. Very, very difficult. And so as we hop right onto the battle bus once more, will they be able to outdrop their adversaries? We see it. It's so all over the place. You have to be really, really on point. And even one of the best teams in all of the world, a team that came second last major, struggling off spawn there. Will that be the theme of today, though? I certainly would think not. You've got to think that Thomas and Malibuca will come in on point, ready. They might just made a whole new drop map in between that game just to be ready for this one. And you can see them both gliding in here. Ooh, look, it looks like Thomas and Malabuka a bit more ahead, but Putrick a bit lower. Look, they've outdropped them by far this time round. Thomas and Malabuka, can they land on the right weapons though? That is what happens of teams landing. But Thomas is there ready. A nice shot with that shotgun and needs to do the rest of the damage.
You can see him just kind of barely farming up. Any mats are better than none. Toos with that elevation, putting some great shots onto Malabuka, but Thomas is there trying to go for a flank. That one's going to be successful. Toos is going to be our first player down here towards the racetrack. That Siphon mats are allowing Thomas to kind of